Alright, welcome back everyone to my channel. Today I bring to you a brand new series called Boba Cards, where I will be interviewing top collectors and investors in the hobby and just picking their brain on on the latest market trends and also what their personal investment strategy looks like. So as the first guest on this mini series, I have the honor to have Bryan, my really good friend. I think I have referenced him before on my videos to be my first guest. And Bryan is an avid investor in the sports card industry, specifically around soccer and basketball. And he's also a very passionate entrepreneur. And most importantly, he's the one that brought me into the hobby. So I owe a lot to him for that. But without further ado, let me introduce Bryan. Hi, Bryan.
Hi, Hannah. Call my Boba.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Bryan, for joining. And being our first guest on this mini series. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah. Hi. I'm Bryan. I am an entrepreneur in the food space, but started collecting cards about 2 years ago, and yeah, I've just been hooked ever since, and nonstop. And I'm bringing all my
That's
friends. That's right.
We all are, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely a 24/7 kind of thing. But yeah, Bryan, can you just talk a little bit about how you got introduced to the hobby and what made you kind of stick around in the investment?
Yeah. So I started because of Gary Vee. I followed his Instagram about 2-3 years ago and just followed his marketing advice, and it worked really well. And he just said, if you don't buy a Giannis 9.5 or a PSA 10 right now, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I bought a few Giannis's, I bought some Lukas, and it was just really fun. It was really fun collecting and doing something that I really enjoyed. And what got me hooked was when I gave my girlfriend, or Hannah's really, really good friend, Christy, I gave Christy's brother a Luka Doncic raw card that I bought for $15 on eBay last Christmas. So no.
Wait,
Christmas.
what? That's a rookie card? A rookie Luka Doncic?
December 2019, I bought a Luka Doncic rookie card, the Prism card, for $15, and I gifted it to him as a Christmas gift. And I'm trying to get close to the family, and and he got it graded, and it came back at 9.5, BGS 9.5.
Wow!
And to see him have so much joy in he started collecting too, like so much joy collecting cards and making money doing something he loves. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
And I made it a mission to bring all my friends in, including Hannah, to grow this hobby.
Yes, and you have been successful every time. But that's so awesome. I mean, even in the last 2 years, you can just see how much prices have definitely skyrocketed. Even in as little as 2 years, which is crazy. So thanks for that. Sharing that. Bryan, let's kind of get into it, right away. I want to ask you some questions that I know that are on top of, our viewers' minds. So let's talk about the basketball market first. I know that recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen LeBron James, Topps Chrome, and even his Topps rookie cards have just insanely skyrocketed. They were sitting at 10,000, 11,000, for the longest time. And now they're near, I think the latest sale today was 28K, right? Mm-hmm. And then, these other cards like Luka, Trey, Tatum cards that saw a lot of price increase in the last season in the bubble, actually, even though all the players are performing really well in their teams, their prices aren't seeing that kind of growth that LeBron's cards are. So, what's your take on that? Is there something changing in the market that we're not aware of, or is this just LeBron cards getting the spotlight that he deserves?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question, and I think it's one of the most important things for people who are new to the hobby to learn about and to consider, because a lot of people who are just getting into sports cards, I think they get the wrong information and they are not the full picture. And they just think, oh, if the player does better, the cards would spike up. And that's not really truly the case, because one of the most important things to consider in basketball collecting or sports card collecting is the population of the cards. And what the population of the cards means is how many PSA 10s are graded and out there. And you can find these on platforms like Card Ladder or Market Movers on Sports Card Investor. Or if you do not want to invest the money in those platforms or spend the money on those platforms, you can just go on the PSA website and search the top report for them. But to answer your question, the reason why LeBrons have increased so significantly is because there are only a finite amount of LeBron cards. I think there are only 2,000 LeBron PSA 10s, but you have 15,000 Luka PSA 10s. And the formula that I kind of like to go for is, as a new investor, is for every PSA 10 that's added into the market, that's being graded and added into the market, how much does the rate of demand catch up to it? So, and the rate of demand is determined by hype or by performance or by a transfer, so on and so forth. So if you were to take, let's say, the LeBron PSA 10s have 2,000 cards, the Luka's PSA 10s have 15,000 cards, and the Zion PSA 10s today have 15,000 cards. So naturally, the LeBrons, LeBron's playing really, really well. They think he's going to win a 5th championship with Space Jam 2 coming out. And he's probably going to be the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a big LeBron fan. And so naturally, because there are only 2,000 cards, we have to consider that 90 to 95% of LeBron PSA 10s have already been graded. Luka's going down a little bit because he's not having a great season, and it's also the influx of Luka PSA 10s have not been rising too significantly. But Zion, even though he's been having a great season, has been going down because there's just so many Zion PSA 10s getting graded. And I think that's a big reason why, LeBron just keeps skyrocketing, because it's all just a game of supply and demand, essentially.
Gotcha. Let me ask a quick follow-up question there. Do you think that there's only 2,000 PSA 10 LeBron James being graded right now as PSA 10 because that's how low sort of the manufacturing of those cards were back then in 2003 of Topps Chrome? Or do you think it's because there's just not as many cards that are in that kind of condition that deserves a PSA 10?
I think it's both. I think that there are not many of those cards available. 2003, I believe, was at the bottom of the sports card industry in general. And from what I understand, it was 1986, it just kept rising, and then up to 1993 or 1994 is when it was the peak. And that's why Shaq cards don't go up so much. Because Shaquille O'Neal was at 1992 was at the peak of mass production of cards, essentially. The junk wax era, as people would call it.
Yeah.
And then from 1996 onwards, they started manufacturing a lot less cards. Year over year started declining, and 2003 there was very few of them left. And and on top of that, PSA is getting significantly harder with grading, really tough with grading. So with the centering, everything. So so it's really hard to get a newly graded PSA 10 LeBron today.
Gotcha. That's very, very helpful to understand, and that kind of calculation or the equation that you use to understand how does this sort of performance, any kind of trade talks or anything shiny that the player himself is doing, how does that rate compare to sort of the PSA 10 cards out there already being graded? That's really, really important.
Yeah, it's just whether, how many PSA 10s enter the market, and is there enough demand that will compensate that. And sometimes performance doesn't matter, but and sometimes it does. Like in this case, like I said, Zion is performing really well, I think. But there are just so many Zion PSA 10s getting added in that naturally the price decline quite significantly.
Gotcha. Thanks for that awesome answer. Moving on to our next question. So hindsight, is always 2020. When we look at last year's season in the bubble and sort of like the trends of prices for majority of the players that were active in the bubble, one understanding that I can get out of that trend is, I should have sold either just before playoffs or during playoffs for players that were in, contention for finals in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference, and then buy during off season. And we were seeing like prices of players just dip, plummet as soon as they exit the bubble. Do you think that's still the right strategy? Kind of like wait out, buy all the cards, and then wait until playoffs to sell some of these cards?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really tricky question because, the sports card market really only blew up last March, not even a year ago. Last March is when it really blew up. And I would say the last season was the only true season that we had our first historical data in this new hobby industry, whatever you want to call it. And so I personally just kept my cards throughout the playoffs, just because I wanted to learn and I wanted to see like, hey, what's going to happen and stuff like that. And the answer was that if I could go back in time, is that you should have sold, like you said, right before the playoffs. That was the time to sell. Now, no one knows the answer,
Right.
And I'm just going off my own personal experience and this is just my opinion. I think that you should not apply that same model for this season. I think, I could be wrong, but applying that same formula could be dangerous in that everyone is doing it at the same time. So last season, everyone thought, well, I know a good amount of people thought that, let's sell during the playoffs, and as it goes up, as the playoffs go on, you start selling them off, and kind of people lost a lot of money in that. They were very huge dips.
Right.
And so for this season, I would recommend selling right after the All-Star break. That's my personal opinion. Just because I think everyone is going to have that same idea that you should sell right before the playoffs. So I figured, you know what, why not take the money and cash out a little earlier? And I think right after the All-Star break is a good time, especially once the All-Stars have been solidified by name, which typically would be the names that you invest in already.
Exactly.
The Brandon Ingrams, the Jason Tatum, so on and so forth. So that would be my strategy. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Cool. No, that I kind of jive with that, where it's always about not going with what the majority is thinking, but are you ahead of that game, right? So if majority of the market thinks that we should wait till the playoffs to sell, then that may not be the right time to sell, actually.
Yeah.
So
also, just to add something on that, like I think it's also really important that a lot of people new to the hobby understand how this cycle works. It's just we can't time the cycle, but it's really important to know the different cycles that do happen. And so the first cycle is basically hype, which is right before about a month or a month and a half to an off season to when the beginning starts. In this case, the Luka Doncic, the Trae Youngs have a lot of hype building up to the season, and that's why their prices went up so much. And then as the season starts, the price started declining quite significantly across the board. And that's people selling the hype, and people are not and investors are not as some of the players did not perform up to expectation, like Luka and Trae. Both teams are currently not in the playoff contention right now. And then there comes the second stage, which is I think I would call the gambling stage, because now there will come a price, a bottom price, where performance really does matter. Right. So I would say maybe if I had to time it, maybe like 2 weeks from now, I would say it would hit kind of the bottom, and then people start buying basketball cards again based on the performance of the players. So it's like hype, season starts, sell, and then people will reshuffle their portfolio to buy players based on how they're playing.
Performance.
And then sell, hopefully, by All-Star, and then switch it out to a different market. Vintage basketball, soccer is coming up, so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
And the same cycle goes for other sports too.
Gotcha. That's very, very insightful. I want to kind of chart that out and have it in the back of my head. To my next question, Bryan, we love eBay. eBay's done us a lot of good, obviously, but sometimes the fees can get pretty hefty. Whether you're selling or buying, and our margins get hurt from that. And so, just wanted to ask you, how do you buy your cards? How do you sell your cards? What platforms do you use that perhaps our viewers and even myself can leverage off from?
Yeah, so I buy a lot on eBay, just because it's really fun. My favorite platform to peruse is My Slabs. I know people criticize the UI and UX a little bit, but I really akin it to going into a shop and you just don't know what you're gonna find that day. I can scroll for hours. I used to go on Facebook groups a lot. I used to go on Discord channels a lot. I still think it's a great resource to meet people. Some of the best deals you get are by meeting people. Lately, I have been following a lot of Instagram channels, like Investacard, Mealy Pops. They do these weekly shows of they go on the Instagram Live and they search and they sell things on there, and you get the best deals off there, I think. So I buy from an array of places.
Gotcha.
But if I want to if I just feel like buying something for the fun of it, then I would probably just explore all of those.
Got it.
In regards to selling, Hannah, I think you know this, I hate selling my cards. Once I grow an emotional attachment to them, I just cannot let them go.
We call Bryan, he has hoarder issues. I see sneaks of it. It's so funny.
Yeah, I even set up a booth at the last Dallas card show, and I think people were just really annoyed at me because I just didn't want to sell anything.
Why are you here, man?
I've never sold anything off eBay. Because, and maybe and I'm not saying it's not a great resource, but I've never sold anything off eBay because I've heard so many cases of people returning the cards, and I just don't have time to deal with that. I think that would ruin the hobby for me if they crack the card on the way and stuff like that. So personally, when I do sell cards, I just go to my local card shop. Hannah and I live in Los Angeles, so we go to Burbank Cards, to Bullpen, to Coffee Breakers, and we just sell cards. And I'll gladly take the 20% cut, whatever it may be, because timing is everything in this sport, in this industry. So I'd just much rather do that.
Gotcha.
One tip I do recommend when you do sell to your local card shop is to ask for credit, because especially if you're in this hobby for the long run, because they would typically give you just 10% off it, a better deal, and you can use that to buy other cards or waxes when newly released, and you think those will actually rise in value. That's a very helpful tip. I know a lot of our viewers are very jealous that we have so many card shops around us, because I know some people definitely don't have that. But yeah, if you have a local shop, you should definitely make a relationship with them and continue on that trade versus having to sell, get the cash, and then buying it at a premium as well. That's definitely a good point. Exactly. Okay, so I know we talked about basketball so far, but Bryan, I know you're a soccer guy. You're an avid Arsenal fan. Every time I see you sad, I'm like, was there an Arsenal game today? So let's switch gears to soccer. I personally know nothing about soccer, as you know. I only know Son and Tottenham Spurs because he's my boy. But do you feel like there's an opportunity in the soccer market, this coming year, in 2021? Because what happened to me last year? I got burned hard, man. I just bought what everybody I got burned hard too.
I just about what everyone was buying. They're like, oh yeah, 2014 World Cup, yeah, 2018 World Cup. Of course, that's going to go up, but that actually didn't happen. We'll see what the end of the story will be. But yeah, I just want to be very straightforward and ask you: do you think there's an opportunity to make some money this year from soccer?
Before I answer that question, I want to say that I got burned really hard, and no one likes seeing, when there's the chart.
Yeah.
When you look at the chart of the players, and when you see that the peak price is the price that you paid for.
And then it's like a slide.
Yeah, that is the worst feeling in the world. But to answer your question, I've learned a lot from all these mistakes, and I've met so many people in the community. And the answer is yes, there is a huge opportunity for the upcoming Euro. It's called the Euro tournament and the World Cup in 2022. Honestly, there's so much to unpack that I think this should be a separate episode on its own.
Hey, maybe you can come back and join us next episode.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and summarize it the best I can. Let me try and give the lay of the land on soccer. And if there's something that the soccer card hobby is just so new because the market rules have not been formed yet.
Right.
So we don't even know what the soccer market is going to look like. It's so early on, and I'll give all the reasons why it's really difficult to invest in right now. The first thing is that people don't really know whether the right thing to invest in is cards or stickers. And I'll give an example. This is an example of an Mbappe sticker, right?
And Bryan, is that like a literal sticker? Like I can peel off?
That's a literal. Yeah, so this is a literal sticker. This is a sticker of Mbappe's sticker. This is a Thierry Henry sticker.
Interesting. Okay.
That from the year 1997. And this is like Zidane's.
Wow.
In the year 1991.
Wait, he's the guy that headbutted in his last game, right?
Exactly. So these are all like legends in the business, and so Panini actually started as a sticker company, and Europeans and people all over the world used to collect stickers when the players first came out, and that's the true rookie card. And then now because basketball cards started blowing up, now soccer cards are starting to blow up too. So people don't really know, hey, do you collect which is the true rookie card?
Right.
The card or the sticker? So that's a huge debate going on right now. And then there's another question of do you collect the team jersey or the national team jersey? There's also things to consider, like it's also so really confusing. Like there are a lot of each country has its own tournament, and then there's each country has its own domestic tournament. So England has the English Premier League, the Spain has the La Liga, the Italian has the Serie A, and on top of that, there's another tournament called the Champions League. And the Champions League basically combines the top 4 teams of each league into one league.
I see.
And then there are national tournaments like the Euros and the World Cup. And to make it even more confusing, Panini and Topps have the rights to different leagues.
Oh my goodness.
Which is just crazy, because what that means is that you will never get a Messi prism in a Barcelona jersey, or you would never get a Ronaldo prism in a Juventus or Real Madrid jersey. And so it gets really confusing because they all have different rights to different things. There's also something to consider is that there is basically the rookie logo is basically non-existent, or if not fake. They've actually put rookie logos on players who have been playing for 7-8 years.
What?
And that's it's crazy. And that's why a lot of soccer investors get really annoyed, because they're like, hey, you're not doing it justice, and no one really knows how this thing is gonna turn out. It's very confusing. It's very difficult to understand, especially if you know nothing about soccer. So going back to your question about do I see opportunity in the Euros and the World Cup, I say 100% yes. Mainly because it's the biggest sport in the world, number one.
Right.
We've already seen that the investors were willing to put in money to blow it up last season, and it went exactly. So people are willing to go in it, but there were too few graded cards, so on and so forth. That's another reason, by the way. PSA, there are basically no graded soccer cards, so it makes it really difficult to invest into.
Right.
And I have heard from a friend that the largest backlog, the largest amount of cards that they have in backlog at PSA right now are soccer cards.
Wow.
So it's coming. It's coming. You know, like, and why I say there are opportunities is because you can see that breaking soccer is becoming a lot more popular.
Yes.
Panini just released a set specifically for the UK.
Oh wow. Okay.
The new Panini Premier League Prism set is going to be released in the UK for the first time in retail. So there is definitely a huge opportunity there.
Gotcha.
I guess that's kind of like my advice on a macro level. But let's just get to, because I want to kind of bring value.
Yeah, we want to know which card should we go buy after, Bryan.
No flimsy, no like wish-washy stuff. I'll only talk about the Euros because the Euros is 5 months away. We can kind of gauge what's going to be happening from now till then. So let me try and give some of my tips that I think is what is going to happen for you, and hopefully your viewers can profit off that this time around. So what's really interesting is that as soon as the basketball season starts dying down, and that's around April or May, that's kind of when the Champions League starts going through their knockout phases. At this point in time was when we saw the Ronaldos and Mbappe's spike.
That's right.
Now, what's different this time is that once the finals end, there is 1 month and the Euros just starts right out.
I see.
It's very unprecedented because the Euros was supposed to be held in 2020. But it got postponed because of COVID to 2021. And what's going to happen is that we don't know what's going to happen because it's so crazy that one tournament follows another tournament immediately. Here are some of the tips that I will give. Number one is the simple things. Don't buy players. Do your research and don't buy players that are not playing in the Euros. The reason why the Euros is called the Euros is because it's only European teams.
Got it.
France, England, Spain, so on and so forth. So don't make the mistake of buying a Messi, Neymar, because they don't play in the Euros. They play in another tournament, which has a lot less hype. So I don't want to talk too much about this, so I'm just going to point here, and there's a list of names and the cards that I think you should be going out for. That's number one. Number two is that to buy only the national jerseys.
Interesting.
Because in the Euros, they're mainly going to be playing in their national jerseys. So buy the national jerseys. Number three is that know when to sell. My personal take, sell just as the tournament starts. So
that sounds safer for sure. It sounds
safer. And don't forget, when you invest in soccer, the one big benefit of investing in soccer is that you're not really investing in prospects. You're already investing in superstars. Because in basketball it's very different. In soccer you need a long time in order to become the star, and the stars going into these leagues, and they are playing in the Euros. They have had cards for a long time.
Right.
So just buy their card and do a short flip and sell it right as the tournament starts. That forget about the whole sticker thing and the whole rookie card thing. There are not enough cards or stickers around, and I'm only saying this as a short flip.
Right.
So let's just take like Harry Kane, for example. Harry Kane is an England superstar. He's an England striker. He's performing really, really well, and he's going to get a lot of hype going to the Euros. There, to date, there are only 20 total graded Harry Kane cards.
And you're talking about the
By-
2016 Prism Euro set?
I'm talking about the 2016 Prism Euro set.
Got it.
There are only 20 graded.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
And a ton are going to come back. A ton are going to come back. And when, like what we talked about earlier about low pop, what we talked about earlier about when is the hype and when does it go down and when does it spike back up? Well, the season for the Euros is only 1 month long. So there won't be a chance for it to go back up.
Got it.
And so all the Mbappes that you buy, all the Harry Kane, the Marcus Rashfords, all these players, you're going to get a lot of hype going into it and just sell it right before. Be done with it. Then you won't have to worry about the debate between cards and stickers and all these rookie card things, sort of things, because there are just so few cards right now in the market. Another top tip is that if you want to be really safe with your investment, try and invest in refractors and rarer cards over the base cards. You can still flip the base cards, but if you buy the refractors, it's pretty cool because, you know, these players you're investing in are already superstars and they have such a huge following all over the world. And if you have a Harry Kane out of 149, Red Prism out of 149, there's bound to be people who would want to collect that particular card, which will keep your investment really safe too, over a base card. But yeah, I think if you stick to those, there's plenty of opportunity in the Euros, and it would also be it would be really exciting to see what happens so that we can know how to better invest for the 2022 World Cup.
Interesting. Thank you so much. I just feel like I just learned a ton of like the basic foundational things about soccer. But now kind of switching gears to like sort of like your personal investment strategy and like some of the experience that you've had so far in your 2-year journey. Can you name your top 3 favorite cards that you own today?
Yeah, for sure. So I always believe that when you get into this hobby, you have to collect your favorite players first. I believe that's how you got into it. You got Kobe. Your first card was a Kobe. So my favorite player, athlete of all time, is Thierry Henry, because I am an Arsenal fan, and this is his rookie sticker, which was really hard to find, and I think there were only maybe 15 ever graded. And the other, my second favorite card is this Kobe Topps Chrome PSA 10.
It's beautiful. It's impossible to find a non-green Topps Chrome Kobe rookie
and
card
for me,
right
the
now.
greening
Impossible.
greening was really important to me. So I was really happy to find one with no greening. And the last one is David Beckham's rookie card, and he's one of the most popular figures in the world. If I were you, I would really start collecting David Beckham cards, just because he has this. He's such an interesting guy. He's so popular in the sport and transcends pop culture. And he has a Netflix documentary. I think it's Netflix, but a huge documentary coming out explaining his life. And he has a very interesting past, very interesting history. And I think it's going to be actually sort of bigger than the Michael Jordan documentary.
What?
So,
no way.
No, I actually truly believe that.
All right, so on to our next question. It sounds like you've invested pretty heavily into, both sports markets and probably made some money too along the way. Do you have like a set goal in your mind for your 2021, whether it's personal or sports card related?
Yeah, definitely. I think my goal for 2021 would be to consolidate my whole collection and just have 10 key holy grail cards, and because that's the fun of it, right? You flip, and you just amass the cash, and finally when you amass it, you get your card that you've been dreaming of. And if I have extra cash on the side, would love to go to the World Cup finals in 2022. That would be like a dream of mine.
Wow, that would be the dream. I mean, we'll see you like on TV and you'll be holding up your cards. This got me here.
With my card.
That's a really, really cool kind of goal for this year. Mine's definitely not that cool. Yeah, and we're down to our very last question here, Bryan. And you're our first guest, and I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be trying to ask this question to all our following guests as well. So it's a hypothetical question. So you have been given $100,000 USD in cash, and it's been given to you in your hands. What are you buying?
Man, that's that's like asking, like, who's your favorite musician?
You're like, that's not enough money. You can't even get a MJ Fleer with that.
I think it would be the 2003 Upper Deck Cristiano Ronaldo autograph card. And the reason why is because, you know, he not only is he like the greatest player of all time, and there are a ton of Ronaldo cards out there, but the autograph, that's his first ever autograph card. And it's just written so weirdly, you know, like pre-fame. And I love that. I just love like how it looks so, you know, it's amazing. It's like the beginning of something crazy about to happen. And yeah, like that I think that would be my card. Yeah.
You know, thanks, Bryan, really, for all your time and dropping your just soccer knowledge and basketball knowledge and sharing just, you know, with vulnerability, like all your personal takes on the market, the trends that we're seeing, and hopefully, you know, some of the tips that you gave us can benefit a lot of the viewers and help them learn this year as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was super fun.
And thanks everyone for tuning in to our first episode of Boba Cards. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.